in, well, that we have, there were a couple of special conditions that were put on the grant earlier. One of which is not true. The other is that on the online grant management system, one of the ways that we have to report, and there are quarterly reports that have to be submitted to talk about progress, is that we have to set a goal for each of the food pantries. And so I talked to our rep at DHCD about that. And what I recommended, and they have agreed would be appropriate, is to use last year's, so 2019 calendar year recipients, individual served. So you're counting each person you served one time. And I'm looking to see, we have everybody on the food from the food pantries here?
We have yeah, everyone except for one who I'm recording this to send over to them for later this morning.
Okay. So what we need you to send to me by email is the total number of individuals. So if you have a family of 3, that's 3 people. And we're only counting them once, not every time they pick up, everyone that they pick, every time they pick up food. We're talking about in the course of a year, how many individual people did you serve? That will serve as our basis goal, basically, that we will then record progress against. Now, CDBG money requires that you either be increasing what you're doing or serving more people. So we can increase by either serving more people or providing more services. So given that we're providing, most of the food pantries told me they're providing more food, and some of you are serving additional people, either way we're qualified, but we're going to have to submit quarterly reports. It's good. Part of what, when you submit your invoices to us for reimbursement, you're going to send us statistical data on recipients, and we'll go through all of that next. But the first step, in order to even get the grant to be able to start functioning in terms of being able to accrue expenses and pay them and that sort of thing, is that we have to put those statistics into the system. Questions? Is everybody?
Yeah, no, I think we're good on that end.
Okay. Now I can't hear anybody but you, Jim. Is that just the way this is working?
I'm just the only one talking right now.
I have a question. Paula, this is Sarah Raposa in Medfield.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi, you had 2 points. Was that the first point? Because it got a little garbled for a second.
That was the first, there are 2 special conditions. That was the first one.
Great.
And the second one was, the second one has already been cleared, so it's not an issue. That's the only one that I require anything from you all for.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there a particular form that we're going to be getting that we fill out every month, or how does it work?
Yes. So, well, there are a couple of things. You'll have, for each person that you're serving, first, and again, even people that you've served up until now, when they come back next month. So if you've been serving a family all along, we're going to have you fill out a form one time for the year for each household that you're serving. And it's a one-page, 2-sided thing where you basically put in, and this is something that we can talk about, either the name of the household, or if you've got a code number for the household, if you want to maintain confidentiality, that's fine. But it will ask them how many people are in the household and ask certain information. There's a self-declaration what their income is. So they'll circle how many people are in the household, and they'll circle an income range. There are 3 income ranges representing very low, low, and moderate income, which are all the eligible, and over income. So there'll be 4 income ranges. They're going to circle a household size. So 1-person household earning $26,000 is going to be a very low income household. They're going to circle that range basically. And then they're going to sign it, and on the back side of it, it's going to ask for demographic information, elderly, number of elderly. There's a race thing, which is optional, but DHCD is required to collect it by HUD if they can. People are not required to fill it out. If they're female-headed households, if they're seniors, if they're disabled. So there's a few demographic questions. They're going to fill that out one time. That's the only time they have to fill it out. And we collect them. So we have to collect unique incidences. They're unduplicated people that you're serving. So if you're serving them and you give them food every week for a year, I only get one form, and we count them as one person. So anyone new who comes in, so in the beginning, you're gonna have to get from everybody who comes in, even if you've been serving them all year until now, so that we have them for the baseline as having been served this year. And then anyone new who comes in, we need a form for. I hope that's clear. It's easier than it sounds.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the last part? Is it, you're going to be doing, we're just going to be starting at a certain date?
No, yes, we're going to start, I need the 2019 numbers as quickly as you can get to me, because I can't start the grant until that comes in and I get that condition cleared. But for moving forward, what I need is, and each time somebody comes in, so let's say Joe Smith and his family of 3 have been coming in every week since the beginning of January. They come in next week, you get them to fill out a form. That's the only time they'll have to fill out a form for the year, basically.
Okay.
Right? Anyone new who comes in who you haven't seen before fills out a form. So I need to get the baseline of everybody that's been served this year. I've got to get everybody one time.
Okay.
That you served this year. So
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay. It's a fairly straightforward. And then when you submit monthly, you're going to submit any new forms that you have. So the new people that you've been serving, or until we get caught up, the baseline ones that we're doing for your ongoing clients, and your invoices that you're paying that you want to be reimbursed for.
Okay. And the reimbursements include, is it food only?
Unless you're one of the food pantries that have requested equipment, there is one, I believe, in this grant that we're buying a freezer for. I believe it's Medford, but I'm doing this from memory.
Okay. Medfield.
So say again?
You said Medford, it's Medfield.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sarah.
Oh, we're used to it.
Yes,
but
Medfield.
Can't help it.
I'm a little discombobulated. I'm not in my home office, and I'm on the road, and I do the same thing with cities and towns. I worked for cities for 20 years. And then when I started working on small cities programs, it took me a long time to get to say towns. And now I have 2 clients that are cities again. So I basically stutter a lot. So yes, I believe it's Medfield, isn't it? That's getting the freezer, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay. We did ask everybody if they needed the equipment. So those are the 2 things. So it'll be food and then the equipment. And everything is done on a reimbursement basis. And the good news is that Bellingham has an incredibly efficient finance department. So generally speaking, we submit invoices to them on Wednesday, and the checks go out the following, not that Friday, but a week from that Friday. So it takes about 10 days to actually go from submitting the invoices to getting the checks out. Okay. So that's the food pantry part. On the micro businesses part, I've got to start putting together the forms, and because this is all new, and I know this is frustrating for all of you, and for me as well, there are still some open-ended questions about how exactly we're counting various kinds of income. It's going to be based, it's this odd combination of things, but basically it's based on the family incomes of the owners of the company. So if there's one owner, it's that one family. If it's two owners, I've got to do them both. And we have two options. One is to use their most recently filed tax return, which at this point in the year will be, they gave us the option of 2018 and 2019. If they've filed 2019, we need to use that. Many people may be over income because that was before COVID if we use 2019. So the second option that we have is that we have to collect actual source documents for their income for the last, we use the last 8 weeks, and then we annualize it forward. So for the last 2 months of bank statements, their most recent tax return, we would look at pay stubs for anyone. And again, so it's any adult member of the household. So if it's a husband and wife and they file separately on their taxes, I need both. If there's an adult child living in the house, their income counts. It's the family members living in that house. If they're renting a room, I would count the rent as part of the, the rent would be part of their income, but the income of the renter wouldn't count because they're not a member of the family. So this is a little different than what we do for things like housing rehab, where we're counting the income of the household, anyone who lives in that unit. For this, they're requiring us to use family income. So it gets a little complicated. They are still working with HUD to come up with clearer guidance. So we're going to be making it up as we go along a little bit. And they've basically said to us, some of the grantees, when we've been on these online meetings with DHCD, are asking very detailed questions about how you want me to do different. Like, for instance, if you've been in business and you haven't had much income in the last, it's like you're proving a negative. It's like, how do I prove I've had no income for the last 2 weeks? So, or last 2 months. So those are the kinds of things that are being worked out. But DHCD, to their credit, has basically said to us, you're going to have to make some judgment calls. So we're going to do that, and we'll document it, because the goal is to try and get this money out as quickly as we can. So I can't wait another 2 months for bureaucrats in Washington to provide answers to how we're going to do things. We're going to have to use our best judgment based on experience. So what I'm putting together is an application for the micro businesses, and then a list of all of the documentation that will need to be submitted with that application. The other thing that they are stressing strongly is there's a non-duplication of benefits requirement. So there's a whole bunch of other programs that were presented for COVID, the PPE, the payment protection, payroll protection program, and some other, FEMA's got some program. There's a whole bunch of agencies that got money for COVID. And I'm going to have to do a declaration form where the applicant is going to have to declare either that they did not receive any money from those programs or that they did receive it. It doesn't mean you can't have received those kinds of income, but we can't pay the same expenses twice. So in other words, if you got payroll protection money that covered your payroll for 3 months ending in July, and then you submit invoices to us with your application that start in August, not a problem. I've just got to document it. So I can pay, they're very concerned about making sure that nobody gets paid twice for the same expenses. There's like way too much silence. Am I boring people or scaring you?
We're just listening.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Rachel from Rentham. We've had a couple questions on the amount of employees for these businesses. It's 5 or less, and some people have asked, do the 1099 employees count towards that, towards the total 5 employees?
No, 1099s are not employees.
And is it full-time equivalent? So if you have multiple part-time?
No.
Okay.
Nope, it's bodies.
Okay.
They made that very clear. It's bodies, and it includes the owners. So you're basically, if there are 2 owners, they can have 3 other employees.
Once you have the paperwork for this, do you think it's worth it to do like a webinar for anybody who's any of the business owners to do like a Q&A type of session with you, Paula?
I'm happy to do that if you folks, we're going to rely on you guys as knowing your business communities. And if you think something is useful, I am available to you. That's kind of where that goes.
What do you guys think, Jim and Rachel? Let me see you guys. Ashley, Paige.
Yeah, based on the questions that I've been getting, they're kind of just small, and I'm like, I don't know. I would definitely appreciate that, you know, a public forum or something to have these questions be answered.
Okay.
I agree. This is Paige, and I'm getting a lot of people following up with me. You know, they filled out that initial interest survey and they're checking up. So I keep saying September, but it is hard feeling like I have no answers. So anything we can do to shed light, even if we're honest that we don't have all the answers, I think just gives them a little idea of what's coming. Yeah. So anything we can do to like shed light on this would help, because it really is like we put out this little thing and then everybody's like, I think desperation's sinking in and they're all waiting for this lifeline. And I'd love to be able to give them, you know, feed them some info, keep them in the loop.
Hi, this is Ashley in Walpole. Sorry to interrupt. I'd agree with Sarah and Paige. I think if we could do, I don't know, even just like a Zoom webinar, because it feels like all the questions are the same. So if we could just invite all the businesses that we've been collecting emails for to one session, it might save us all some time.
That would be fine. I talk among yourselves and figure out what would be the best timing for that. Give me, give me at least a week, 10 days preferably, to get organized and have the paperwork so I can show people what it looks like and that sort of thing.
Would it maybe make sense then, Paula, for you to let us know a couple of dates and times that would work for you to do it, and then we can coordinate using those dates?
Sure. Can I get an idea from people what kind of response you're getting in terms of, I know some of you have been sending out sign-up forms, and I'm just curious what kind of demand you're getting and if people are giving you an idea how much money they're looking for.
In Medfield, I did send out the information, but didn't give a lot of context on it, just sort of like stay tuned, as Paige had mentioned. So the kind of feedback I'm getting is, you know, when's it coming out? But I fear that a lot of people won't actually be able to qualify. And I have not gotten any feedback on the amounts that would be requested, because really we put the information out there like, I don't know what the parameters are going to be. We'll know it in September.
Okay. Okay.
We've got about 30 people on our list. Excellent. In Walpole.
Okay. Okay. That you're confident are 5 or less people?
They've self-certified that they're 5 or less people. Okay. And I don't know, you know, if their income, like most probably won't income qualify, like Sarah said. But just to give you an idea of the numbers that we're seeing.
Yeah, okay. So that's another thing I've just been saying. If you're interested, fill out the form, and because I don't have time to go in and, you know, sort of check that you only employ 5, less than 5, or 5 or less people. So do you have any suggestions on, once we get to that point, I mean, how's that going to work? Who's going to be checking this? Because I mean, I'm sure all of us don't have the time to go in and check everybody's finances.
Yeah, no, that's going to be part of qualifying people. And that's, again, I would love to give you definitive answers, but some of these things, when we ask the HCD, they don't have definitive answers. So we may ask them to submit a payroll is probably the way that we'll do it as part of the application process.
But basically that's what Paula is here for, is to manage that whole thing for us.
Yes, indeed. I get to do all the glamorous stuff, like going through all the paperwork and doing all the math. Actually, the truth is, I get to sort of design it, and my associate, Kathy Bertolette, who's like a real whiz at this stuff, is going to do a lot of the income certification stuff once we get it up and running. So God bless her. She's on vacation this week, and it's well deserved, because when she gets back, she's going to be a very busy girl. So
can I ask a quick question about this? So this conversation just reminded me, I mean, that's another thing I would imagine, that some of these people that are applying, I know fairly well, and I would imagine they're not going to I don't want to see their business, and I don't want them to think that I'm seeing it. So is there some security, like, does it just go to you? We don't act as a clearinghouse. We have no part of this, right? I mean, I just want to give some assurances, because I feel like they might be like, wait, what? We have to give what?
No, think about yourself as information referral. It's kind of like when we do housing rehab and there are tenants. We send a letter to the tenants asking them to document their income, and we explain to them that none of that information is going to go to their landlord. So it's the same kind of thing. We're not going to provide it to you. We're going to maintain it. DHCD will come in and monitor us at some point on the process, and what they do is they pick a couple random files and they review them to make sure we did everything correctly. So I have to keep all those files. They're all secured in the Old Town Hall at Bellingham, where our office is. We're going to, because of COVID, we're going to allow people to submit things electronically, because we've got limited hours still. We're still working partially remotely. So we will make appointments to come in and meet with people if they need assistance or something. But no, all the information goes to us, will be used only for that purpose. And I will tell the clients on this program what I tell the housing rehab clients: if you're at all worried that I'm all up in your business, don't be, because the minute I sign on the form that says you are eligible, I no longer remember anything whatsoever about your income, because it's like next, and I'm into the next case. So I remember stuff long enough to qualify people. And then there's just usually so much volume that you're dealing with that I'm not going to remember it either. So yeah, what you guys are key to is getting the word out and referring people to us, and encouraging them to apply. But no, we don't need you to be doing the details of that process. You're way too valuable to be doing the grunt work. Now, there was one issue. There was one town, is it Walpole, that the food pantry pulled out?
Yes, that was Walpole.
Okay. The question was raised. We will need to do, if you want to redesignate that money to, I think the school system program was one of the questions that was raised. We're going to need to do a budget amendment, a grant amendment, in order to make that happen. And we should talk offline about what the requirements would be, because for the school system, it gets a little more complicated. You're going to have to prove that it's completely separate from what they do normally. And there was one program, and I don't remember which one, because I'm not in my house and I don't have my files in front of me. But there was one program where the school ran a summer program that provided meals to people, which was completely above and beyond what they do in their normal.
Walpole started something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So something that would be additional, we can pay for staff if it's in addition to what they normally do. We can pay for food and supplies if it's in addition to what they normally do. But we're going to have to somehow document that.
Okay, I'll touch base with the
Yeah.
woman at the school who I got the data from and see kind of what her reaction is. If they're not super behind it, I don't think we should expend any energy into that again.
Okay, because there was an allocation for your community, I don't want to take that money away without giving you an opportunity to reprogram it. But if you can't use it, given that the food pantry doesn't need it, then what would otherwise happen would be that your portion of the grant would just get redistributed to the other communities.
Sounds good. I mean, I'm glad that it could go elsewhere and be used well.
Yeah, the goal is
we
to
don't
not
get
give any money back.
Yes.
our goal is always never give money back, because it affects your next abilities. The next time you go in and ask for money, you don't want them looking at you going, well, they couldn't spend the money we sent them the last time. So we try never to give money back. That's actually one of the things I'm most worried about this, because like you, I have no idea how many micro businesses are going to qualify and how much money they're going to need. And, you know, I'm concerned about spending the money. I've got a year to do it. They gave us until December of next year. So we've got a little longer than we thought. We thought it would run July to July. Now they're basically saying you can run it till December. And they've told us that, like other CDBG grants, if we need an extension, we can get one. But the goal is that we're going to try and get all this money spent between now and December of 2021. Anything else?
Oh, I think you hit on everything on my list here. So so the task to do, maybe you and I can coordinate on a time and date that works best for you to do a Zoom webinar, and then I can coordinate with the gang to see if it works for everyone, and we can get the word out to the business owners.
That would be great. And I promise next time I do a Zoom meeting, I will be in my home office, so all the technology will work, and I'll have all my files and things with me, and I'll be able to put up copies of forms and things for you to be able to see. But what I would like to do is schedule it so that it gives me enough time to create all the forms that we'll need and the checklist, and then actually email them out to everybody so you all get a chance to look at them first. And we'll do a little program guideline kind of thing too.
That sounds excellent.
So that's why I need another 10 days or so.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Paula?
One other thing that I wanted to ask people. My associate, Courtney Starling, who some of you are working with, had suggested that it might be helpful for some of you might be interested in learning more about CDBG generally. There are some very interesting online training things that are available on the web. If any of you are interested and you want to let me know, I can email you the links to those. It's sort of generic CDBG.
My question is, are most all of us, except for Jim, I know Medfield's not a CDBG eligible community in general, which is why we tagged on here. So is it even worth it for non-eligible communities too?
It's fairly dry, complicated stuff. Again, I'm mentioning this because Courtney thought it might be interesting. There are programs within CDBG where your community has to have a sufficient number of low and moderate income people, but there are other programs like housing rehab, for example, where we qualify individual households. So if you have, theoretically, if you have 5 individual households that are eligible, they can be qualified on a one-by-one basis. And the micro business program is going to run like that. We're qualifying the individual businesses. So if you wanted to do CDBG money for putting in streets or roadways or parks, that would require that at least the entire census tract was more than 50% low moderate income. And that's where a lot of people don't qualify. And when applying for the state CDBG program, there's a points system for eligibility based on the percentage of the community's low moderate income. So truthfully, some communities just don't have a high enough score in that category to be able to get funded, given how competitive it is. So, but the program itself is to serve low and moderate income people. And in some cases, some of the housing rehab, the micro business enterprises, those are like, it doesn't matter how many people overall in your community are low and moderate income, it's how many we can qualify to provide services to. So it's a lot to go through. If you're interested in it, I'm happy to send it to you. There's no need for you to do that in order to participate in this program. I just wanted to make the offer because Courtney thought it would be a good idea, and then it might make you all feel better that you knew like more about what was going on. Because I know that it's been very frustrating, especially since we knew we had the grant, to not be like, let's go, let's go, let's go. I'm feeling the same pressure to get everything moving. And I'm sorry that I haven't been able to give you more information than that, but so if you want it, it's available. I can send you the links. If not, it's not something that you would be required to do in order to participate and function within this consortium. So why don't you just email me if you think it would be helpful, and I'll just send the links back to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, Paula.
Okay.
All right, I think that's it for everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Paula. We'll be in touch.
Okay, bye-bye.